In previous videos, we've talked about the price times quantity equals total table, or the PQT table, and shown how it can be used in a variety of questions, from basic unit price questions to wage questions, questions where a group of people is sharing some sort of bill, like a restaurant bill or a monthly rent. Um, and in this question, we're going to show how that same table, or in this video, we're going to show how that same table can be used for profit questions. Profit, just to repeat, or just to, if you're not aware, is equal to revenue minus cost. This is the formula for profit. It's just the difference between the total amount of money you make when you sell something minus what it costs you to make that thing. So let's see how we can use this table, the PQT table, in these types of questions. Let's take a look at question number 1. So in this question, we're told that a company makes coffee machines. The cost to make the coffee machines is $8 per machine, and each machine is sold for $10. If the company made 700 coffee machines and sold all of them, what was the company's total profit? So we'll set up the table, PQT, price times quantity equals total, and all we have to do is make rows for the revenue and the cost. Let's see, so the cost to make the coffee machines is $8 per machine. So the cost is $8 per machine, and each machine is sold for $10. So the revenue is $10 per machine. In other words, each machine costs $8 to make, and if we're making 700 machines, the company made 700 machines, well, if each machine costs $8, that is the price per machine, and we made 700 of them, the total cost is 8 times 700, or 56, followed by 2 zeros. When you're multiplying hundreds or tens, powers of 10, or rather multiples of 10 or 100, just multiply the numbers that aren't zeros first. In this case, 8 times 7, which gives us 56, and then add all the zeros that you see. So with followed by 2 zeros, so this is 5,600. The revenue, well, so the company made 700 machines and sold all of them. That means that the revenue is going to be 10 times 700, because we've sold 700 machines. We're selling each one for 10, so 10 times 700 is 1 times 7 is 7, followed by 1, 2, 3, 3 zeros. So the total revenue is 7,000. What was the company's total profit? The total profit is the revenue minus the cost, or total revenue minus total cost. So it's going to be 7,000 minus 5,600. That's going to give us 1,400. So the answer to the question, what was the company's total profit, is 1,400. So just to recap, we can use the same table, and we'll keep track of our cost and our revenue in different rows. Let's try it in these other two questions. Let me just erase this to make some space. 1 second. All right. So question 2 reads, the total cost for company A to run its factory for a month is 300,000 plus 400 for each computer that it makes. Each computer sells for $900, and if company A made 1,600 computers last month and sold all of them, what was company A's gross profit per computer? This is a little bit trickier because we now have two costs, and we're trying to find not the total profit, as we saw over here, there's total profit, but the profit per computer, which means we're going to have to divide the total profit by 1,600 by all the computers sold. So we'll make the same table. So I'll probably need a little more space here. So price, quantity, total. We'll set it up like so. So the total cost for company A to run its factory for a month is 300,000 plus 400 for each computer that it makes. This splits the cost into two. The 300,000 is what's known as a fixed cost in economic parlance, jargon. It's a cost you pay once per unit of time. So 300,000, we pay that once. You can think of it as the rent for the factory, or the rent plus the energy used, or something like that. 300,000, you pay that once, and so the total fixed cost is 300,000. So often if you take microeconomics or something like that, this is, you can think of this as I said, if you have a factory, maybe it costs $300,000 a month just to keep the lights on, just to pay the rent on the factory or something like that. But then, in addition to the fixed costs, we have variable costs, as they're called. This is the cost per unit, which is what we saw up here, but didn't really label. The cost per unit is $400. That means that to make each computer, in this case, we invest 400 bucks. So it takes $400 to make each computer on top of the 300,000, to rent the factory space or whatever. Each computer sells for 900. So the revenue, often you don't split apart. It's just, you just have one row for the revenue. And the revenue is 900 per computer, which means that we sell each computer for $900. Company A made 1,600 computers, so our variable costs, that goes, 1,600 is going to go here. That means we've made 1,600 computers. To figure out the total variable costs, or what it costs to make all of these computers, apart from the fixed costs, is going to be 400 per computer times 1,600 computers. So 4 times 16 is 64. 64. And then followed by 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So the total variable costs is 640,000. This is how much it cost to make all 400 computers on top of the fixed costs. And then the revenue is going to be 900 times 1,600, because we sold all 1,600 of these computers. We sold them each for 900 bucks. And that's 9 times 16, 9 times 10 is 90, 9 times 6 is 54, 90 plus 54 is 144. As you do enough of these questions, you'll memorize, you'll develop your times table too as well, don't worry. Followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is now 1,440,000. So the profit, whoops, a lot of space there, but the profit is going to be this total revenue, 1,444,000, minus these total costs. So 300,000 plus 640,000 is 940,000. So what we're doing is 1,440,000 minus 940,000. That gives us 500,000. So the total profit is 500,000. The quantity of computers, again, is 1,600. So the way to find the profit per computer is to divide the 500,000 by the 1,600. So just to show you how to, just to have a little bit of practice in reducing, let's reduce this number. So we start with 500,000 divided by 1,600. This is the profit per computer, because the total profit, as we saw, is 500,000. So the revenue minus the total costs, divided by the number of computers sold. To reduce this, we'll knock out the zeros first. So now we have 5,000 divided by 16. Let's divide that by 2. 5,000 divided by 2 is 2,500. 16 divided by 2 is 8. We can divide that by 2 again. So 2,500 divided by 2 is 1,250. And now this is divided by 4. There's a couple ways you can reduce this by reduce this forward. We can multiply top and bottom by 5, but I'll just keep cutting by 2. So 1,250 divided by 4. If we divide the top by 2, 1,200 divided by 2 is 600. 50 divided by 2 is 25. So this is 625 over 2. And then to get this as a decimal, 2 into 625. 2 into 600 is 300. 2 into 25 is 12.5. So we have 312.5, or $312.50 is the profit per computer. And let's do the last question, which is one that's going to involve a little bit of algebra. So let me just clear this. 1 second. Question 3 reads, if the ingredients for hot dog cost 40 cents and all other costs of running a hot dog stand are $1,200 per week, how many $1 hot dogs would the vendor have to sell in 1 week to have a profit of $1,200 that week? Assume the vendor sells all hot dogs made. Let's set up our table, price, quantity, total. And just like in the previous two tables, we are making rows for the cost and rows for the revenue, and then also a row for the profit. And like in this question, we'll divide the cost into fixed cost and variable cost. So they tell us the variable cost first. First, this is the cost per unit, how much it costs to make each unit. So the ingredients for a hot dog, for one hot dog, cost 40 cents. So the variable costs are 40 cents. We don't know how many hot dogs we're going to make. In fact, that's the variable, but we'll get that in a second. And all other costs for running a hot dog stand are $1,200 per week. So the fixed costs are $1,200. Again, fixed costs, you can think of it as the rent that you pay for, for that where you park your hot dog cart, or the license that you need to pay per week, or something like that. How many $1 hot dogs? Well, the $1 hot dog tells us the price that we sell each hot dog at. We're going to sell, oh, by the way, the fixed costs, you pay that once. That means the total fixed costs are $1,200. So how many $1 hot dogs? Well, the revenue is $1 per hot dog. How many tells us that we don't know how many hot dogs we need to sell, so we'll put a variable for that. That means our total revenue is 1 times x, or x. The question is, how many of these will the vendor have to sell to have a profit of $1,200? We'll make a row for profit as well. So the profit here is $1,200. Where do I put that? It's not profit. It doesn't go in this column because this is the price per unit. So in this case, the profit per unit. We're going to put that here. We want a profit of $1,200. Let's make this a little nicer with these rows like this. We want a total profit of $1,200. So how can we figure that out? Well, if we assume the vendor sells all hot dogs made, that means that these X hot dogs that we sold is the same as the X hot dogs that we made. In other words, the number of hot dogs made is the same as the number of hot dogs sold. So now we know that our variable cost is 0.4x, or 0.40 times x, or 0.4x. We can make an equation now. We know that this total cost, which is all the variable costs plus the fixed cost, subtracted from the revenue, is going to give us the total profit. So let's make that equation. So we have x minus 0.4x plus 1,200 is going to equal, so this is the revenue minus the cost, is going to equal 1,200. This becomes x minus 0.4x minus 1,200 equals 1,200. X minus 0.4x is 0.6x, and we're going to add 1,200 to both sides. So this cancels out, and we get 0.6x equals 2,400. X is going to equal 2,400 divided by 0.6. So I'll do that up here. So 2,400 divided by 0.6. When you have a decimal and a fraction, just multiply the top and bottom by 10 as many times as necessary to get rid of the fraction. So we'll multiply to get rid of the decimal. Let's multiply the top by 10, bottom by 10. Doing that moves this decimal over and adds a 0 up top here. So what we have is actually 24,000 divided by 6, and that's 4,000. So the answer then is x equals 4,000, or this vendor needs to sell 4,000 hot dogs to make a profit of 1,200 under these conditions. So just to recap, for profit questions, you can use the same price times quantity equals total table, and generally the way you do it is you make rows for the cost and rows for the revenue and rows for the profit. Often in questions is going to be multiple rows for the cost, and you can usually note that by putting variable costs and fixed costs.